I made a shitload of mistakes when I was the CEO of Ethique, the company I founded in my kitchen almost 11 years ago. I started mixing beauty bars in my kitchen, and over the next 10 years, it became this global sensation of shampoo bars. But man, have I made some big fucking mistakes. And honestly, looking back, I have no idea what I was thinking at the time. But that's okay. Now, as I've stepped down as CEO last year and I'm moving into my new startup, Incredibles, which I'm very excited about, stay tuned. We're going to revolutionize the drinks industry. I'm taking those lessons with me. Kia ora, I'm Brianne West. You may know me as the founder and former CEO of Ethique, that beauty bar company, or hopefully you've heard of Incredibles, although maybe not yet. Or maybe just that woman that rants on TikTok all the time about greenwashing. But if you've never seen me before, I'm here to help ethical enterprises grow and scale and solve social and environmental problems at scale. Because I have spent the last 10 years of my life doing exactly that, and I'm proof positive that it is possible. As much as I am proud of everything that we collectively achieved at Ethique, I'm brutally aware that we did a lot of things wrong, and I did a lot of things wrong. And we all learn better when we hear other people's stories. So as embarrassing as this might be to make, here we go. Because at the end of the day, success to me is helping other businesses do the same thing with maybe less of the faff. Number one is better leadership. In my Ethique days, I really leaned into being the leader who was more of a friend than a boss, because that is who I am naturally. My number one characteristic, and this might sound arrogant, is that I try to be kind and fair. And I thought that if everybody liked me, then we would be a great team. I have had many moments that turned that thought on its head, because what this meant in practice was that I trusted more than I should have done. I couldn't hold people accountable as easy as I could because I was everybody's friend. And I got taken advantage of a lot. There have been plenty of examples where, as a company, we went above and beyond 14 members. And I'm not going to give you any examples because that's not fair to those people. But it would be thrown back in your face. Or we needed to make a business critical decision, but I wanted everybody on board because I thought that making a unanimous decision was key to everybody getting on and doing it. It's not true, and you can almost never have unanimous decisions because you can never please everybody. But I tried to keep the peace, so I didn't want to step on toes and I didn't want to make decisions, and frequently that backfired. And actually, one time we missed out on a massive opportunity because there was two people that didn't think it was a good one. And even though I did, I backed down. I learned that one pretty quick, because at the end of the day, leadership is not a popularity contest. As much as it sucks, you can be a good, kind, fair leader, but at the end of the day, you are there to lead. So you need to make tough calls. And sometimes that won't win you any friends. And that sucks. Depending on who you are as a person, that can feel really off and really uncomfortable and really personally hurtful. But here's what I've learned. It's absolutely okay to be friendly and approachable as a leader, but when push comes to shove, you need to stand firm. You need to make hard decisions. You need to make them with conviction. And your team may not always like it, but they will respect you for it, because at the end of the day, they don't expect to be your friend. They don't want to be. You're their boss, and you need to remember that. They will respect you for it. And that is what matters. This isn't easy. It took me years and years to learn, and I am probably still closer with some of my team than I should be. But this is probably going to be a lifelong lesson. I've had to learn the hard way that people will stab you in the back and climb up the knives. And that is not just related to team, because you don't just lead your team. It's also related to your partners, your advisors, and so on. So number one, leadership is not about being the most liked person in the room. It's about being the person who can lead, make decisions, be authoritative, be kind, fair, and firm. Number two is backing myself and speaking up. God, I sucked at this so much, and sometimes I still do. There was a moment in the early Ethique journey that sticks out when I'm talking about this in particular. We were in a board meeting, and I was obviously the youngest and the least experienced in the room. And I always felt totally useless in those situations, that I should not even be there. I was stressed, my heart rate was always ridiculous. I would sweat, and I couldn't really talk often because with some subjects I'd get quite emotional. I don't know about you, but I cry when I'm angry, which is the most frustrating thing. And even though I knew that I had really useful insights or I had opinions, I couldn't share them because I was intimidated, and I let the titles or suits shrink me down. And I had this idea in my head that because I was the newbie, the new one with the no experience, my thoughts weren't worthy. And again, I'm not going to divulge because some of these things would be obvious, but there was one meeting in particular where a decision was made I vehemently disagreed with. It was absolutely the wrong decision. And I rang up one of my directors afterwards and I said, I'm not doing this. I appreciate this is what you think is the easiest thing to do, but we need to change the way these meetings run going forward because I'm not comfortable operating in this. And it was great because he supported me through that. I developed better skills on how to actually talk out in scary environments, and they made those environments less scary for me. So it was very kind of them to adapt, but it was also a real learning curve for me Speak up. You need to remember to back yourself, especially in the moments that you're filled with doubt, because you are never going to know all the answers. If you were ever feeling out of your depth, you need to remember that you're in that room for a reason. This is your business. Your ideas, your perspective. You may not have the years of experience under your belt, but you know your business, and you will have unique insights from your life experience. You are worthy of being in that room, and you should speak up. The world needs to hear what you have to say. It might feel a little bit like climbing a mountain, and it's terrifying and overwhelming, but every time you do it, you build a little bit of confidence. And the number one regret I have from Ethique is not speaking up earlier in so many rooms, and it has taken me way too long to learn this, and don't make my mistake. Be braver than me. It also helps to have a really honest relationship with the people you're going to be in those scary rooms with, because I can be very frank with a lot of people, but I couldn't at that point with one of my directors, and that made a difference. And that was a long, long time ago. You need to prioritize your health. So entrepreneurship is an all-consuming beast. It is, as I've said, thrilling and addictive and exhilarating, but it's fucking hard. And if you let it take up all your time, your health will suffer. And with Ethique, most of its life, I totally neglected my health. The stress was just constantly there. And actually, I never felt stressed, so I assumed I wasn't, which is ridiculous looking back, but here we are. And it definitely started taking a toll on me, both physically and mentally. And I've ended up having some, they're not serious, but they're certainly irritating health issues that I'm still now dealing with and trying to work through. And they were probably avoidable, entirely my own fault. Everybody says you need to prioritize your health. Health is wealth. But I didn't, because I thought the business was more important. The business is nothing without you. Look after your health. So this time around, I'm going to start treating my health as a non-negotiable, which sounds ridiculous, but here we are. It's not going to be easy, because to-do lists quite literally never end. But you need to schedule in time for yourself, time for whether it's walking, whether it's a hobby you love, whether it's hanging out with animals. So I have found nothing more peaceful than going diving, being underwater. Like, you don't have to worry about emails underwater. You're worrying about, oh my God, the fish around me are incredible. Oh my God, this is amazing. How much air do I have left? That is a massive privilege to be able to go and do. But I also find just as much peace in doing like a YouTube kickboxing class, or just going for a walk. I would forget to eat all day, and then by 5 o'clock I'd be ravenous, and I would just snack though. And I would snack, or what we call now girl dinner, because I would be far too hungry and too tired to cook. You cannot nurture your business, which might be your baby, if you are not well. So I really urge you, especially if you are just starting out, to prioritize your health at all costs. And I know that we glamorize this, sleeping under your desk, never eating, pizza boxes all over the floor, shit, hustle culture. It's bullshit. You can do that when you're 18 to 25, maybe, but not always. And there are plenty of examples of entrepreneurs who will tell you the same story, that they now suffer physical and mental issues because of it. Your business needs the best of you, and you can't be the best of you if you're not looking after yourself. Mum lecture over, but hustle culture sucks. And a lot of that idea of putting yourself last comes from hustle culture. Networking and community building. Fucking hate it. Networking, that is, anyway. But never underestimate the power of a good chat. Honestly, Ethique has been made by the people around me, the people that I've met, even sometimes randomly. The strength of your network can be the lifeblood of your business, right? Your network is your net worth and all that. And that, I hate that, and it kind of sucks. And it's not always true, but it is sometimes relevant. I learned this firsthand when I met, through a wonderful connection of mine, I met a Forbes reporter. Had an article that went live on Forbes, and I thought everybody would read it. Nobody read it. But then that story was syndicated onto the Huffington Post, and Ethique went viral. And that's largely how we entered the US, because honestly, we went bananas. We went viral before I even knew what that word was. So you need to get out there and meet people. You never know who people know. But when I say meet people, don't treat them as a transaction. Get to know people, build relationships, build a natural network, not just one of those transactional networking meetings where you're asking people what they can do for you. So get out there. But I still won't go to networking events. This is one of those do as I say, not as I do things, because I hate networking. I'm not good at it. People who can work a room, go and talk to everybody, and then leave without offending anyone, I envy you. I don't know how you do it. I've seen people do it, and it's like a magical skill. But get better at it. I'm trying. I will often meet founders, and they're like, oh, do you know such and such? Do you know such and such? And all these wonderful, amazing people. And I'm thinking, nope. And a lot of the success that young founders have is through people that they've gone and met. So suck it up, buttercup, as they say. Get out there and meet people. You can become a hermit later like me. Finally, we were on to my last and probably biggest, maybe. It's hard to pick one. Failing. But my biggest failing. finances, numbers. I know. It might not be the most exciting part of business, but it's kind of crucial. There was a time where I thought I could just wing it with finances. Okay, that's not true. I wasn't necessarily winging it so much as ignoring it. But I genuinely didn't think about it. This was pre-Ethique. Back in the day of my very first venture, I pretty much ignored the IRD. I kept thinking as long as the cash kept coming, it was fine. I did definitely not put 30% aside. I didn't think about cash flow. But eventually it hit me like a freight train. And the stress of having to sort out taxes and manage finance was so bad I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Thankfully, when you call the IRD and work with them, they're actually very easy to work with. So if I'm describing you, don't be frightened. Reach out proactively and it will make all the difference. But don't be me. I learned quickly, and that was a wake-up call of epic proportions. And it made me realize that loving your product and loving your customers and having fun with all the creative side is really not enough. You have to know your numbers. You've got to love them because they tell you a story. Okay, if you don't want to love them, you've got to at least respect them. So when I started Ethique, I vowed to absolutely never let that happen again. I pushed myself to understand what the numbers were telling me. I didn't like numbers. I was not a maths person at school. I don't really care about money. So it wasn't something that came naturally to me. So what made me like it more was understanding that these numbers told me a story. They told me something about the business, what I could do better, what wasn't working, what was working. And that was how I started to enjoy it. And then obviously it paid off. And I'm far from an expert, but you do not need to be an expert. That's why you employ accountants and finance experts around you. But you do need to know the basics and ideally a little bit more than that, because you need to understand what your numbers are telling you, because sometimes some people will draw the wrong conclusions from a number. And you know more about your business, so you might understand why that's the wrong conclusion and prevent making a decision that might not work. So don't shy away from the financial side of your business. It can be fun. I really enjoy it now. I love going through companies' numbers, my own and others that I work with. So get to know the basics of accounting, cash flow, profit and loss. Yes, we have a module on Business with Better just for this. And if it's still not your cup of tea, that's totally fine. Entrepreneurs do not need to be. Once you know the basics, work with experts. Spend some time with them so they can teach you what they know. So get a good one. And having that solid grasp on it will just make you sleep easier at night. Honestly, I love finance now, but don't tell anyone because it's a running joke with people I know that finance meetings are obviously the worst. But actually, I quite enjoy them. So here's your cue. Reflect on your own adventure so far. What is on your to change list? Have any of these things that I've done come up on yours? Don't make the mistakes I did. Learn from me, because I'm going to on my next incredible adventure. I was a young entrepreneur. I made a lot of mistakes and I'm not ashamed to admit it, even though this was a little bit embarrassing. Thank you for joining me today. Your support is appreciated. Making content like this is a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. So if you found this helpful, subscribe, like the video, let me know what you thought and share it with your fellow ethical entrepreneurs. Because if we want to change the world, we need to do it by building bigger, better ethical enterprises. This is the year of YouTube for Business with Better. So I will see you next week.